Hi, neighbor. On today's show, we find out how 4 dogs were rescued from South Korea and their journey to the Watauga Humane Society. And later on, I hit the streets to see just how much Boonies know about this election. All that and more on today's Hi, Neighbor. Okay. You can see what they're doing up there.
Throw all your worries away. We're here to entertain you in the barbershop style. So throw your cares and troubles aside for a while. We're singing, hi, neighbor, my neighbor.
First, we'll get camera 3. Right.
Now's the time to say hi. Now's the time to say hi.
My first guest today is Christy Watson, the shelter director at Watauga Humane Society. Hi, Christy. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So we're very excited to have you here and to talk about something that is kind of sensitive, but also later on something that's really wonderful. So I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we have learned that the Watauga Humane Society has obtained 4 dogs from South Korea.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that and how that happened?
Yeah, so we are emergency placement partners with Humane Society of the United States, which basically means that anytime there's a crisis situation in our state, we are one of the top shelters that they call and say, hey, we have some animals that, need rescuing, that need pulling, whatever the case may be. Are you able to have them and pull them into your facility? And always we're able to help. And this time they rescued 31 dogs from the meat trade in South Korea.
Wow.
And we were one of 5 shelters in North Carolina, I think, to take the Korean dogs and bring them into our facility and get them socialized and find them forever homes.
Wonderful. When did this happen? When did the dogs come to Watauga Humane Society?
I picked them up on October 2nd in Hickory, and another neighboring shelter, Cashiers Highlands Humane Society, is a wonderful facility. They were gracious enough to kind of leg the transport, so instead of driving all the way to Cary, I met them in Hickory, and they were able to take 17 of the South Korean dogs into their facility.
My gosh.
So we took 4, and they're doing great. We are going to have them spayed and neutered November 2nd and November 3rd, and they had to stay 30 days quarantine, for safety's sake, in case there are, any kind of signs of illness or anything like that. But they did stay 30 days in a sanctuary in Korea. They were vaccinated in Korea with the same vaccinations that we use here in the United States. And we've not had any problems whatsoever health-wise. They've been very healthy, very happy, and they are going to be available. We're taking applications starting November 6th for the application process. So we're going to go ahead, take applications that week, and after we go through the applications, we will hand select the home for each of the dogs.
Wonderful. So are the dogs all various ages? Are they some of them puppies or some?
They
of
are
them
all
elderly?
1 year old.
They're all 1 year old.
Yeah.
Wow, and they've lived their entire lives in kennels. Is that right?
Yeah, in small wire crates. Very, very little interaction, socialization, which is amazing that they're so sweet. And, my staff has been very, very diligent because they have been in quarantine and the public hasn't been able to go and do meet and greets with them. So staff has been very diligent in spending time with them every day. We all go back there and try to, just spend time with them, socialize them, letting them get used to being touched. And they seem to just love it. They eat it up.
That makes me so happy. That's wonderful. So do you guys have a partnership with, shelters and places that are overseas?
Currently, no. We actually just work with Humane Society of the United States. They are the liaison between
Okay.
the shelter, well, our shelter at least, and overseas.
That's awesome. Well, I do want to merge into a lighter topic and your role at the Humane Society as the director. I know that's a heavy job. So what can you tell us about your favorite part of being the director at the Humane Society?
Well, I'm shelter director. We have an
Okay.
executive director who oversees all of the Watauga Humane Society. So I am basically I'm the operations director.
Okay.
Animal care, adoptions, things like that, and it is very fun. It's a fun job. It is something different every single day. I love it. I began as a volunteer at the shelter 5 years ago, and then I slowly became a director on the board of directors, and then the position opened, and I was like, well, I spend all my time there anyways. I might as well. So it just fit. And so I've been the adoption center manager for about a year and a half now.
Awesome. So your favorite part about getting to interact with animals, it sounds like a dream job for some people like myself.
Yeah.
Every day. What can you tell us about your favorite part?
Oh, that's hard. That's really hard. There's so many good parts. Probably being able to care for the animals, kind of like with Cow. Taking care of them, getting them healthy, getting them socialized, getting them adopted out into a perfect home. We love to see other homes, after the adoption process, sending the pictures in, hey, this is, whatever the animal may be in her new home with her brothers and sisters. It's great. I mean,
Super rewarding.
It is. Placing those animals into their homes is just amazing.
Well, Watauga is classified as a low-kill shelter, right? So can you tell us kind of what that means? Break it down for us.
Sure. And actually, we are almost a no-kill. We're like 2% away. We are really working very hard to go towards no-kill. Like I said, we're basically a no-kill.
Yeah.
We do not euthanize healthy adoptable animals. We do not euthanize for space. Basically, it only happens when an animal is severely sick, severely injured, where, because we are a nonprofit, if an animal, is so severely injured that we can't help it, something like that. But if we're able to fix it, I mean, we've had, just this summer alone, we've had 4 dogs with broken legs. We've been able to treat all of that. Got all 4 of them into homes and got them, into wonderful homes. So once again, it's very rewarding.
That's so nice to hear. I love visiting. Every so often, I kind of have a problem, I guess you could say. I love visiting and torturing myself and just walking through and seeing all the animals. I mean, to be in a shelter is a bummer, but they all seem so happy and healthy. When we go, we'll take the dogs for the walks, and, go in the kitten rooms, and not one of them that I've ever, interacted with is just, they're just all happy and healthy. So I really
I'm glad
enjoy
that
that aspect of it.
We work very hard to make it a happy place. Our animals, staff treats the animals like their own. I mean, we have a wonderful volunteer database who comes in. They walk the animals. They make the Kongs for the dogs so they can have some enrichment. They make cat toys for the cat rooms and the kittens. I don't know, a lot of people don't realize this, but in our main kennels, our floors are heated. So the dogs have heated floors in the wintertime. And we want to make it a bright, fun, happy place.
It's a beautiful facility for anyone that hasn't been. It's a fairly new facility. So it's really awesome. And today we have a little guest from the facility, little Miss Cowbell. And she is from the Humane Society, and she's up for adoption. What can you tell us about Cowbell?
Cowbell is a big love bug, number one, as you can see. She was rescued by an outside rescue who I had been in contact with, and they had contact with the owner, and the owner surrendered Cow. We're so thankful that she did, because she was living in pretty horrific conditions. She was tied up basically tied with pavement as her bed and a bath mat laid down for her to lay on. She was used as a breeder. So she's 10 years old, and basically after no more babies, they kind of just
Useless.
yeah,
Some people.
basically. So
Oh my gosh.
luckily the rescue was able to pull her and got in contact with me, and I pulled her into Watauga and immediately got her into the vet. She has dry eye syndrome, which caused her blindness, and she looks 100 times better. I know that her skin kind of looks a little icky now, but it looks 100 times better than it
healing
did.
up,
She's
yeah.
healing up. She
Yeah.
was super thin. Her skin, she was just like her skin had this big, just this red, angry glow. It was just so itchy and so irritated.
Yeah.
So lots of medication. She still has about another 2 to 3 weeks to go on medication, and so she's not quite up for adoption yet.
But she will be
She will
whenever
be.
she's ready.
She will be, and she's to have such a meek, like just her personality is just so submissive and just so
Yeah.
sweet and
Well, she's so full of life.
She
10 years
is.
old when you brought her in to me. She looks like a 6-year-old, dog.
I know.
She doesn't look at all old or, just
Yeah.
done. She's happy and she's getting healthy. So I'm really happy for her, and that you brought us a little play date. She's been really good on the set, so
Yeah,
I'm really
she has.
happy
She has
we've
been.
had her. But thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and getting it out there about not only the Korean puppies, but what you do at Watauga. So I'm glad you got to come in.
Thank you for
and talk
having
with us.
me. Thank you for having me. Anytime anybody wants to know about Humane Society, I'm always willing
Yeah.
to talk about it. Most people
And
are like,
your website. Let everybody know what your website is.
yes, it's www.wataugahumanesociety.org. There's lots of, you can donate through our website. You can buy a dog park pass on our website. Look at all of our adoptable animals.
Wonderful.
Volunteer. If you're interested in volunteering, there's a volunteer application you can fill out, and it gets emailed to our volunteer coordinator. So lots of stuff to do on our website.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again for being here. And Cowbell, come here. You're so sweet. Well, up next we have our very own Judith Geary with another Books Matter.
Hello, I'm Judith Geary of App State's Department of Communication. Welcome to Books Matter. Our guest today is Noyes Capehart. Best known as an artist, his passion has recently turned to writing. His first novel of suspense, Devil's Mark, has been compared to the Da Vinci Code.
It opens in 1939 in Nazi Germany, and the reference to Devil's Mark came when the character Theo Volmer, when he was a young boy, and he inherited stolen paintings that had been given to his father by Hermann Goering. The mother is telling him that these now are yours. I wash my hands of them because I think they are the mark of the devil. Mm-hmm. So the title that you asked came from her strong feelings of disapproval and her strong criticism of the involvement of Theo's father.
So Theo Volmer is one of your characters.
He's my villain, if you want to call him that. One of my characters with whom I have traveled many miles.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And another character, Porter Blue, teaches art at a university in Nashville.
How strange, how strange.
How strange. In many ways, it seems his experience parallels yours. How close are you to Porter Blue?
Well, experientially, I probably am close to Porter. I have in my resume references to art history courses that I've taught, but I'm more of a studio artist, have been. But I love art history, and I have used art history in many ways in my creative writing. I'm not really, I don't think of myself as kind of Porter Blue matchup. I mean, he's much too charming for me to even think in terms of walking in his shoes.
All right.
But he's a character who has a deep love of art, deep feelings about art.
Okay, so you bring all of these together Toward the end? Yeah.
Well, it follows a fetish of mine for complexity, I think. I tend to forget sometimes, play things a little bit more smoothly.
Okay. Well, okay, so the suspense of, where is the suspense? We have Porter Blue, we have a villain who has stolen art. What about the love interest? Not Michelangelo's love
surely.
interest, but Porter's love interest.
Well, Porter's love interest is Largo Kopasz, born of Polish parents, and her great-grandparents were specific victims of Hermann Goering, in that they lost their collection to them.
So they're pursuing Vollmer to get the materials back?
No, Largo discovers the painting that his father had been given by Goering that came from her great-grandparents' home.
Yeah.
She discovered it at his home at a dinner party.
So I'm not going to ask you to give away the end of the book, but we do see that all those plots weave together at the end. So what are you writing now? Are you working on a sequel?
Well, I'm finishing the sequel. The sequel will carry the title of Chameleon, to imply what? A man of different colors, and more specifically Vollmer in this case. It's a follow-up and certainly the sequel to Devil's Mark, and it will focus more on Largo and Vollmer than Porter Blue, although he will have a role in the story, but it's to be a two-part series of books.
So now, at the end of Chameleon, we will know what happens. We will get the ending. Yeah.
You will get an ending that you may or may not like, but,
Okay.
but yes, the ending is there.
That's always the hazard. When you deal with a creative author, it's always the hazard. It may not be what you would have written, but it's the ending. Noyes Capart's book, Devil's Mark, is available at the ASU bookstore, online at Amazon.com, and by order from Black Bear Books. That's this edition of Books Matter. I'm Judith Geary. Till next time.
Wow, I will have to add that one to my reading list. Well, I went around downtown Boone asking regular folks about what they know of the upcoming election. So we've hit the streets of Boone today to see what our general public knows about voting. Do you know when Election Day is?
November 3rd?
It is November and some change.
November 8th. Is it November the 7th or the 14th?
15th?
Want to try again?
16th?
One more time.
17th?
Do you know when Election Day is?
November 4th.
Want to try one more time?
No, I'm pretty sure on that one.
It's always the second Tuesday of November, November 8th.
You're right, you're right.
It's November 8th, although I'm voting on October 20th.
6th? It's at the beginning of them.
Right. Do you know the amendment that gave women the right to vote?
Isn't it the 13th Amendment?
I'm going to go with the 19th.
That's correct.
The 19th, which some people think we should repeal now.
That must have been like the 14th or 22nd or something, I think.
Do you know what amendment gave women the right to vote?
The 19th.
So what is one issue that you would consider most valuable for you in this election?
The economy.
Like education is a pretty big thing. The budget in general, we're spending a lot on military, which I think we shouldn't do. Obviously a lot of racial issues here lately, a lot of police brutality things going on. I feel like those are really big issues that should be addressed.
In one word, what issue do you care about most?
Climate change is the one I care about most.
I would probably say women's rights, but obviously I wouldn't be isolated to just that.
My main issue would be equality.
What is one issue that you consider most valuable to you this election?
To me, law enforcement.
Okay. Now, do you know the two vice presidential nominees for this election?
I know the Libertarian vice president.
Okay, let's hear it.
Yes.
What's his name?
Johnson and Weld.
Pence is the one, and Kane is the other one.
Do you know for which party they're?
Yeah, Pence is Republican, yeah, and Kane is Democrat.
So.
Do you know who the 2 vice presidential nominees are for this election?
I do. Well, there are 4, actually.
The 2 main ones.
Yes, I do.
Do you care to list them for us?
Sure, Mike Pence and Tim Kaine.
And for who are their presidential nominees?
Pence for Trump and Kaine for Clinton.
And then the other 2 are Pence and Kaine.
And do you know who their presidential nominees?
Pence is with Trump and Kaine's with Clinton.
Okay, great.
Can you repeat the question?
Do you know the 2 vice presidential nominees for this election?
I know it's Pence and golly, who's Hillary got going for her? Kaine.
Do you know the 2 vice presidential nominees this season?
Pence for Trump, and Hillary has some guy. Ooh, I don't know that.
You don't know?
I don't know that.
It's Tim Kaine. Do you know who the 2 vice presidential nominees that are running this election?
You mean the 4?
There are 4. Do you know the 2 main ones?
It's Pence and Kaine.
2, 1.
Well, it looks like some of us might need to go back to history class. With me now is Dr. Stella Anderson, Associate Professor at the Walker College of Business and a member of the Board of Elections. She is here to tell us where, how, and why we should vote. Hi, Dr. Anderson. How are you doing?
Good. Happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. So voting is very important, as we all know. But can you tell us what the Board of Elections is and how they help with voting, what they do?
Okay, in every county in North Carolina, there's a 3-person board, and it's a bipartisan board. And election administration is what we do, making sure that North Carolina election law is followed and we receive a lot of direction from the State Board of Elections. And so obviously there's a lot of work that goes in on the front end to get ready. And there's actually a lot of work on the back end after Election Day before we can actually certify the results of the elections from Watauga County.
How long does that take?
We will meet on November 18th to certify the final results from our county, and that goes to the state, and then sometime after that, shortly after that, the state actually certifies for all of the statewide elections the final results.
Well, it's a lot longer process than I think everybody thinks.
I think that's true.
You just go in there and you don't check your box, but you don't think past that.
Yeah, you have no reason to know what goes on, everything that needs to go on in advance, and the work that continues even after Election Day. So we've got early voting going on right now.
Well, where are these early voting locations at?
Okay, great. At the administration building downtown, which is right next door to the county, to the courthouse, is a main site for early voting.
Okay.
And then we have 4 that we really worked hard to try to establish to serve kind of north, south, east, west parts of the county. And then I could name those, and then we have the site on campus at ASU.
Okay.
So there's an early voting site in Blowing Rock at the Blowing Rock Town Hall. There's an early voting site in Deep Gap at the Deep Gap Fire Department, at the Meat Camp Fire Department, and Western Watauga Community Center out in the Sugar Grove area.
Well, what do you need to bring for when you go vote? What do you need to bring with you?
If you're already registered, you really just need to show up and give your name, and give your name and give your current address.
So no ID or anything?
No, and so there is no voter ID.
Okay.
Sometimes for a first-time voter that didn't provide some necessary identification at the time of registration, that will be flagged, and they will need to have some additional stuff with them. But generally speaking, if you're already registered, you are not required to bring anything.
Okay, well that's awesome. Simple,
it's
easy,
very simple.
So you should go out and vote, right?
Right. And the wonderful thing about early voting is if you are not yet registered, this provides an opportunity for you to do what's called same-day registration and voting. So you get to register and you get to vote in the early voting period. It's really important that people understand that once the end of the early voting period occurs, no more same-day registration. If you're not registered by Election Day, you're not going to be able to get registered.
Okay.
So that's why early voting is a great opportunity.
Definitely.
Because and I wanted people to kind of be clear about the hours at these various locations.
Okay.
So Monday through Friday, through the end of this, through today,
Yes.
and then Monday through Friday of next week at these 5 satellite locations. So that's not including the administration building that's right next door to the courthouse, 10 to 5.
Okay.
Okay. At the administration building, 8 to 5. And then we are required to have on that final Saturday, which is November 5th,
Yes.
an early voting site, at least one, and we do only have the one at the administration building, and that ends at 1. So if you leave it to that last day, make sure you're there before 1 o'clock.
Will do. So what are, just so before we wrap it up, the websites that we can learn all this information and more on?
So all of the hours and locations and lots of other information is on the County Board of Elections website, which is wataugacounty.org.
Okay.
I always encourage people to take advantage of the state board's website. There's a voter lookup tool on there just to double check your registration, and that's at ncsbe.gov.
Very helpful.
And if you need to, pick up the phone and call the local County Board of Elections office if you need for more information or to double check your registration or you have questions.
Okay. Well, Dr. Anderson, you have been so insightful, and I'm really excited to get out there and vote. I need to early vote, and I really appreciate you coming on and telling us all this wonderful voting information. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, every election is a really important election. But I like for people to know, especially first-time voters, of which we have a lot in terms of our campus population, that you're not just voting for president, you're voting this time for governor, you're voting for our U.S. senator, and you're voting all the way down to some really important local offices like our County Board of Elections, or County Board of Education and county commissioners. And so there are many elections in this year.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, everyone go out and vote. We'll tune in next week as we find out what the Health and Hunger Coalition is doing to help our community. Until next time, bye neighbor, and remember, go out and vote.
We're singing, hi neighbor, what do you know and what do you say? Hi neighbor, throw all your worries away.